sir. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 27th, 2021 Board of Directors meeting for the Maryland Environmental Service. Next slide. Here's the agenda before you. Not as many procurements as the last meeting, and hopefully we will be able to get through this board meeting expeditiously. Next slide. Are there any questions about the minutes from the April 25th, 2021 meeting?
Dr. Glass, I move the approval.
Is there a second?
This is JP. I'll second that.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Moved and approved. Thank you. So until yesterday, in my prepared director's report, I had planned to reiterate that I had incurred no expenses. And on the record, you see that I've incurred no expenses. But yesterday, from the time period on that expense report, yesterday, first of all, this month I started visiting sites. This past month, I started visiting sites to meet staff throughout the organization. I started with environmental operations, visiting the Prince George's County Materials Recycling Facility and the Prince George's County Organics Composting Facility. And then yesterday, I visited the Rocky Gap Water and Wastewater Treatment Plants and the Greenbrier Water and Wastewater Treatment Plants, Greenbrier Park State Park. I had never been to either of those two state parks, even though my father lives 20 minutes away from the Rocky Gap Wastewater Treatment Plant. As I do these visits, I can't remember. I think it was Mrs. Leach's idea. We thought about coffee and donuts as I arrived. And I think I mentioned that at the last board meeting. But we went to little baggies with an apple, a healthy chip, not a potato chip, usually veggie chips or something like that. A healthy bar, all promoting health and goodness, and then a water-based drink, flavored water, that we just hand to the staff as a thank you for all that they do. And I give a short presentation on my goals, and then we move forward to visiting their sites and seeing the good work that they do. So in that instance, I have incurred expenses with the creation of those snack bags. And that total was $272.29 exactly. And that is for probably to date 30 or 40, and we still have some supplies left of making more snack bags as I continue to visit sites division by division and to the 31 major sites. I'm hoping I can get to visit all of those before the end of the calendar year. In addition, I spent about $120 yesterday for lunch for 8 staff members as we were driving around Western Maryland and in Boonesboro, just to be clear. So they will appear on my next report, but before yesterday and before the snack bags, I had nothing to report. In that vein, as I communicate throughout the agency, I've come up with 3 thrust areas that are connected for executive management to focus on over the next year or perpetually, really. They are already major themes of the organization. The first is safety. I start with the safety report for those facilities, a review of anything that has occurred, any incidents that have occurred over the past year, and the Office of Safety's perspective on the risks associated, the major threats, if we were doing a SWOT analysis to those facilities, and a focus on see something, say something. I also always lead with, I hope and pray to not have to be a part of any fatalities on my watch at MES or major injuries. And then I hope that every staff member, every person on the team will focus on that, from senior leadership all the way down to an operator in training. So we just all focus on safety of each other, including while traveling in vehicles for MES, which a lot of our operators have to do a lot of miles in the East and the West. So that's number one. Second goal, second thrust that I like to review with all of them is the level of service, maintaining this high level of service that we achieve, and making sure that we keep our clients, the facilities that they grace us with managing for them, and the metrics that we use to make sure that we have no violations, as few violations as possible. We don't want to cover up violations, so we don't want to have there be a detriment on our self-reporting, but we focus on our level of service to all of our clients. And the third, which ties into the other two, is to focus on continued education and training. Ms. White is actively working to bring back the manager training and supervisor training program in the next fiscal year. And so hopefully by January, we'll be able to start that 6-month program again and have selected supervisors and managers, people that want to be prepared for the next step up, to be in those programs. And I'll continue to reiterate to all of them that I support them, whether it's getting CDL licenses to help them expand their capabilities as an operator, or the associate's degree, or a bachelor's degree, master's degree, or a PhD. We want to support people with their goals of continued education, and have that continued education lead them to higher levels of compensation, or as great members of the team. So that's all a review of actually getting out to the sites and seeing. So I've been to environmental operations, I've been to a water wastewater, and now moving next, I believe I have Part Mill Island on the schedule in early June. And whenever, I'll let you all know when we're planning these things out, and anytime, and maybe I'll start sending out an email that if any of your schedules allowed, or if you are in the region and you want to join on the tour, I'm happy to host with you and visit some of the sites, especially for board members that may have never seen any of these facilities. So if it fits your schedules. The next item is the Deputy Director interview panel has completed its work. So we have received approximately 32 applicants for the Deputy Director position. That was narrowed down to 13 applicants to interview by the panel. And they have successfully given me 5 candidates for me to interview. I plan to continue those interviews over the next week, and then provide a name to 3 names, to the Secretary of Appointments to recommend for one of those to be the new Deputy Director in the new fiscal year. 4 other brief items. We did get off a letter to the historically Black college and university presidents about 2 weeks ago. The intent is to strengthen our partnership with all 4 institutions with the goal of hiring their students, sending MES employees to their programs, writing for research grants with them, and if desired, doing work for them for their stormwater and any other facility works that they need in the environmental arena. So hopefully MES can aid all of them in time, attaining their climate change resiliency and sustainability goals as well. We've only received feedback from 1 so far, but it's only been a week and a half since they received the letter, and this is graduation time, as you all know. So and it's the start of the summer, but I'll follow up with other ways of communicating with them and make sure that they, by repeated communication, they understand the intent is the intent is honest and open, not to take anything from them or to have some overarching manipulative goal. It's just to engage. The MACO MML solar survey with the Maryland Clean Energy Center was submitted. Hopefully, some of you that work in county and local government have seen them, but we are getting results coming in. The goal of this survey is to figure out how members of MACO and MML view solar energy, if they have any interest in engaging with MCEC and MES to act as both their MCEC to give them access to capital for the projects, and MES to help them with project management and the actual construction of facilities. So we hope that some of these responses are positive and we can have some nice leads to follow up on as we enter the late summer and fall, and maybe even have discussions at MML and NACO this summer to follow up. The biochar project development continues. We've been meeting internally between environmental ops and water wastewater, and with Hazen and Sawyer. Hazen, Sawyer, WSSC, and Anne Arundel County. We had an external meeting with them. However, without any capital funding lined up right now, we're just waiting to be able to put together a proposed RFP when capital funds are appropriate. We also, with biochar, we're actually looking at any organics, and we support the Animal Waste Technology Fund award of a poultry litter biochar gasifier that they have made public that they've engaged with. So that will be on the Eastern Shore, and there might be an opportunity to come up with an agreement for some of our biosolids, a smaller amount, even an engagement with them if they can lower our tipping fees for our biosolids disposal to help support that project. And so we look forward to that. I'd also like to announce that all but dissertation, Dr. Jahan, started yesterday. So I informed you a few months ago that MES was looking to support a Sea Grant Fellow with the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Studies. She has begun, and she will work on the climate change requirements in the new law as of July 1. And also, I keep coming up with ideas for projects for her to work on, and I'm going to try to limit it to 3: climate change and sustainability and what we are doing as an agency, then also to work on the Animal Waste Technology Fund biochar relationship. And I can't remember the third one, but I have it written down in my notes. But she's going to also to work and help engage with the Stormwater Center of Excellence idea with the technical and environmental services. I guess I should announce we have slightly reorganized, and Ms. Ellen Ferketic is the acting managing director for water and wastewater, and Mr. Gillespie is the managing director now of technical environmental services with geographic and engineering services and environmental monitoring reporting to them. So now there are 4 operating divisions at MES. And the last announcement is that I did attend last Friday, May 21st, the kickoff administrative meeting of the Charles County Resilience Authority, the first resilience authority in the state. And they have an interest in actually finding ways to mitigate a lot of the flooding, nuisance flooding, and climate-related events that are occurring in Charles County, and to help streamline their capital program in that respect. So it was a very nice meeting, very productive meeting. I was happy to hear that initial board members only have terms of 2 to 4 years, and after 2 terms they cannot continue. I think it may even be 1 term for the 4-year folks. So I don't know whether my term is 2 years or 4 years, but I look forward to engaging with them and seeing where the Resilience Authority theme goes with other counties and municipalities. I've read that Anne Arundel County and Annapolis were in conversations to be the 2nd Resilience Authority. So these authorities they sit outside of county government, but they are, at least in the Charles County perspective, they're not staffing up for the authorities right now. They are using volunteer board members and some county staff to get us started. And so people wearing dual hats, but an external entity that should have bonding and bonding in its own capability, but they haven't explained exactly how the finances are going to work in. And with that, that is my director's report. If there are no questions or comments, we'll move forward.
I don't have a question, but I've got a comment, Dr. Glass, and that is that I was struck in a very good way by the way you went out and talked to the people and actually gave them something to eat. Everybody loves that, and all I can say is that the value of esprit de corps is incalculable. And when you do that, I think you are building up something that is the right way to do it and great. So thank you very much for doing that. And
Thank
don't
you,
worry
sir.
about the $200, as far as I'm
Well,
concerned, anyway.
I'm just always going to report it, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. You don't, not the 79 cents, that,
All right, I'll stop with the cents. We'll stop with the cents. I'm sure
okay,
that.
great, thank you.
Thank you. Next slide. The agency activity report. Next slide. We still put some highlights of major projects. But other than these major, including these major projects, are there any questions? We're at the point where, particularly with the relationship with the Maryland Port Administration, the MDOT Maryland Port Administration, we're cycling to the next budget year. So a lot of these are long-term projects, and we're getting through the budget cycle. I believe I only have one left in my inbox to review. But if there are any questions for Mrs. Dolliner related to these projects, that'd be great, or any others that are on the agency activity report list. It seems as though, all of MDOT is in full recovery mode, both with traffic counts going up, gas usage increasing, an extreme amount of travel compared to during the higher part of the pandemic. 60 to 100% increases over last year at the same time, and really gearing up for a big Memorial Day. So this really bodes well for our state partners at MDOT. And they're really excited about all of the activity picking up. Okay, next slide. Mr. Patel.
Good morning. So our labor sales, as I've been saying in the past few months, is less because we have one less payroll this year. But I'm happy to report that now our focus is on comparing with fiscal year 20 actuals. So the budget, the way it was prepared, we didn't expect COVID and all that. So we are not comparing against the budget. But if you look at against fiscal year 20 actuals, since there was one less payroll, if everything stays even, then we should be 3.85% less in the labor sales. But actually, we are only 2.48% less in the labor sales compared to fiscal year 20, which interprets as that we have grown 1.37% in labor sales compared to fiscal year 20, if you disregard one less payroll. So we're still gonna be less at the year end, less than fiscal year 20, but this is a good trend that year over year, our labor sales are growing. And our revenues are less too, close to about 3.5 million. So, but year over year, we are growing in labor sales. Next slide, please. So our change in net assets as of this point is 3,388,000. The change in net assets is the net results of all our revenues and all our expenses. The budget for that was 3.1 million. So we are doing better than budgeted change in net assets. We already surpassed the yearly budget goal for that, and it will continue. My expectation is that the change in net assets at the end of fiscal year will be in the range of $3.3 to $3.5 million. And the main reason is that is a lot of vacant overhead positions. So we have been saving money on the salaries, high salaries, plus the fringes on it for I would say close to 8 or 9 months, in some positions, probably close to 10 months. Okay, next slide, please. The total net asset components are made up of invested in capital assets and unrestricted net assets. We haven't invested in any major capital assets, and we do not expect to invest any by the end of this fiscal year. So the percentage of invested in capital assets now is 47%, and unrestricted net assets is 57%. At the end of the year, with the year-end estimates, accruals, adjustments, it will probably go in the same percentage as previous years, which will have invested in net assets and unrestricted net assets close to even. Next. So as I explained to in the earlier slide, the labor sales for actual as what is it? Are we in? I think you need to go back to the previous slide, Pam. Yes. So as I explained, our labor sales is 29 million. The budget full year is 37 million. We're not gonna achieve that. But if you compare to the fiscal year 20 labor sales, we will be achieving that, adjusting for one less payroll. As you can see, the budget full year overhead variance was 1,500,000, but we are already at 2.3 million because of the vacancies. The fringe variance is budgeted. Usually we don't get any kind of a favorable fringe variance, but this year, we are running favorable fringe variance, 480,000 as of now. And the only thing which is not mentioned by item here is the decrease in interest income. No matter how hard we look, we cannot find safe investments that earn us an interest. So we had about 100,000 projected interest income, but we have received only 7,000 projected income. Now, whatever interest income we earn for the funds that are for midshore or major partners, we allocate that interest to them. So MES as a net has earned only $7,000 interest this year. Okay, next slide, please. So, can you scroll down, please? Well, at least I see on my printed copy. This calculation explains how we projected $3.1 million increase in net assets, which is the net of the revenues minus expenses. But we are already at 3.3 million. And as I explained before, we are not meeting our budget for interest incomes, but we are far exceeding our expectations for overhead recovery because of less expenses. And also the travel expenses has gone down significantly. So because of the COVID restriction and hardly any travel. So that's why our net increase in net assets is better than expected. That concludes my presentation. Any questions on any of them? Oh, sorry, it's not. This is a favorite part, but I'm sorry about that. It didn't come that fast. So town of Sudlersville, there is no major efforts done in either directions of collections. So it will stay there and we'll determine, by the end of this year to not repeat the same thing over and over again. So we'll decide, but right now I want to report what is showing up as accounts over 90 days. Maryland Department of Natural Resources, we are working with our MES project managers, and we have contacted the project manager who is in charge of approving this 41,000 past due, and it is under review there. And I'm very hopeful And I'm pretty sure that, we will receive that money in next probably 30 days or less. DC Department of General Services, it can be taken off from this, but I decided to put it this month because we already billed the partial amount, about $1,500 to DC Department of General Services, and I kept it here. And we have a plan to bill the rest of it, but I kept it here because I'm gonna keep it until we receive the first payment. If we receive the first payment, then we know the next of other payments will be followed, and I'll take it off from there. So very likely, if is acceptable to everybody, of course, the Department of Natural Resources and General Services will be definitely taken off, receiving on the payments, and the town of Sudlersville. That will clean up that account over 90 days. And I do not expect any new ones coming in there, but we won't know until we close May and find out, if new over 90 days popped up. But we are very diligent on following up on our collection activity. But not only that, we are more diligent on responding to customers, because I consider customers as a part of team for collections. So we have assigned a special cell phone last month to an AR specialist who is responsible for receiving all customer calls, logging it, and follow up the same day or the next day. So we want to keep the customers part of it. We have done a good job. We have good accounting records, and we should be able to respond to all customer inquiries within a couple of days. So that will help going forward. As far as the private clients are concerned, South Star Limited Partnership, finally, they formed the Homeowners Association. They opened up the bank account, and that payment, it was just a procedure for the Homeowners Association. So that payment should be received probably within the next couple of weeks. So that will be probably resolved too. Wise Recycling and JR Sales, I think we have received the judgment on both of them. And going forward, I don't know what the next actions will be. JR Sales is paying about $100, each month here and there for last few months, but the judgment is for a much larger amount. So we'll work with legal on the next steps, but I think we have received judgment on both of them, Wise Recycling and JR Sales.
Mr. Patel, excellent job. We all remember how long this list was, when you stepped into this role. So excellent work, and your team's work for getting these down to such a short list.
Thank you. We don't have a collection specialist. Everybody, who is doing collections is doing different other jobs, more important job like banking, billing, and all that stuff. But I had divided that between the finance staff, and I have a great cooperation from them, and we have procedures. We are developing new reports. So thank you very much for recognition, but my staff is doing a lot more than their normal job duties are for collection stuff. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Next slide. Mrs. Heller, the Audit Committee report.
Good morning, everyone. We did have an additional audit committee meeting this morning in which we went over the audit plan for the upcoming year. There's one GASB standard that will be going into effect at the end of the next year that deals with leases and the way the finance staff deals with leases. So that's going to be in implementation mode. And otherwise, I don't believe I have anything else to report.
Thank you. Any questions from the full board? It was a very short and sweet initial kickoff meeting for the audit committee. So everything's in order. Just will add that we will be adding some work. Today's meeting was primarily about the general audit for the whole organization, but we will be requesting an expense audit of the senior leadership of MES per the new law, July 1st. So that will be an added contract with RSM or task. Thank you. Next slide. Ms. White,
Good morning.
good morning.
We currently have 857 positions, and our vacancy rate when the new hires are brought on board will be 7.92%. That is still much higher than our normal and actually higher than last month. We are continuing to see an increase in vacancies and turnover. And a lot of our those who are leaving, they have mentioned a salary. In fact, out of our 14 decline positions for this fiscal year, 10 of them mentioned salary. So we will be moving forward. Last year, I guess probably March of 2020, we received the report on our comp study, but we'll be moving forward to make some changes, particularly for our hard to fill positions. We have some engineering positions open, and we've had engineers who have left because of salary. So just wanted to mention that we will be looking at how we can improve, how we can bring our salaries up so we can continue to retain our employees. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. White.
Thank you.
Group updates. Who's first? Mrs. Dolliner.
Good morning. Confined aquatic disposal is the process of creating dredge material capacity by dredging underwater sediments to construct containment cells. Sites are selected where there are minimal environmental impacts as well as minimal soft, silty materials overburdening good sand material. The sand material can be removed and used uplands to create dredge material containment dikes. A confining clay layer contains the future dredge sediments that get deposited. And under an MOU between MES and MDOT Maryland's first CAD cell was completed in October 2016 between the Masonville vessel berth and the Fairfield berth 4 area. It was used to accommodate the federal inflow that year. Evaluations for the next potential CAD cells have been completed. And as you see, the circled area shows the short list of the areas that should be best suited. And within this next month, we're going to enter into a new CAD MOU to do further site investigation, site selection, permitting, and design. The MOU will be 1.7 million for these services, and then we will later modify it to add additional funding to actually construct a CAD cell. And any questions?
Thank you so much. Very instructive.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to talk about the work that Water and Wastewater Engineering is doing at Point Lookout State Park. We have money from the state to replace the water lines and the sewer lines that are out there because they've been there for about 50 years and there is a lot of salt water in the groundwater, so it corrodes the piping. And we've had a lot of issues with infiltration, overloading the wastewater treatment plant, and leaky water mains. Basically, what we're going to do, as I said, we're replacing pipe and we're going to make improvements to the pump stations. There's quite a few pump stations at that park since it's such a flat site. We will also be replacing the hydropneumatic tank for the water system in the South Park. The way this plan shows is there are actually two separate sections of the park. They are not interconnected at all. We'll be replacing a little over 24,000 feet of water main, 25,000 feet of sewer, and DNR has said that not only do they want utilities at this park replaced, but they would like us to look at other parks in the future too, because they know that their systems are old. They've also asked us to do some additional work out here, and that would include review of their electric service, which we really need to do because that would also affect the pump stations, as well as the wastewater treatment plant. And here is the projected work. What we're doing here, a lot of the lines have been, they serve the camping loops, but they've been difficult to access. So we are actually going to relocate lines. They're still going to serve the camping loops, but we're going to relocate them to roadways so that in the future, if we need to access anything, it's going to be a lot easier to get to them. There's a lot of wooded areas there. You can see it on the left, the water lines, that yellow section, that's what we're going to abandon. And we're just moving everything into the roadway. And this is what we're doing in the South Park. Basically, we're leaving it where it is. There's a little bit of abandonment, but definitely replacing a good deal of piping here. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
When is construction supposed to start?
We are at the 90% design phase right now. So we're waiting for DNR to give us a little bit more information. And once we get that, I would anticipate fall, early fall.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kedick. Mr.
Marty.
Ford.
Yes, sir. It's a good time to bring the board up to date on where we are with the Eastern Shore Natural Gas Pipeline project. As most of you know, it's a critical piece of infrastructure, and it's not just important to our client at UMES, or not UMES, but at DPSCS, and for UMES, but also for Somerset County. It is targeted to bring significant economic growth opportunities for the county. So it's a critical project in its own right. And we're at a point where the rubber hits the road. So where we had been reporting prior, we were still in the design phase for most of the work. Chesapeake Utilities and Eastern Shore Natural Gas, we're just getting started with their piece of the pipeline, but we're at a point now where we're getting pretty close. Fall will be the time when we start receiving gas. And so this is where we are. At the natural gas supply line to ECI and UMES, the Chesapeake Utilities folks have installed, this is a little bit out of date. It's actually closer to 50% now. So this is from last week's numbers, but they're continuing to move forward with their installation of their natural gas pipeline. Eastern Shore Natural Gas Pipeline is not shown on this slide, but they are also around that 40% mark. And they are on track to meet their service date of September 15th. For our conversion work at the DPSCS ECI prison, we have two projects that we have to do there. One is we've got to convert the existing boiler equipment, the wood burning equipment, to natural gas. We are looking at a contract with Duval Equipment Corporation, which is the OEM rep, the only OEM rep for Cleaver Brooks. And they have delivered the economizer. That was delivered. And the burner delivery date is in August. And we're talking to them about doing the installation, which is the last bullet on this slide, as a OEM sole source contract. And that is under negotiation now. We also put out for bid the natural gas service line and the propane conversion for DPSCS. This would be the service line from the road into the power plant that we run. And then running a pipeline from that point out to the prison, and then converting the existing propane equipment to natural gas. That was a competitive sealed bid, and we received two bids, one from WM Schlosser Company and the other from Chesapeake Turf. Those bids are both under review, although Chesapeake Turf is the apparent low bidder. And their name is misleading. We thought the same thing that most folks did when they saw the bid. Oh, this is a landscaping company. What do they know about construction? But actually they have a significant amount of heavy construction experience. So that's where we are. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Mr. Gillespie.
Morning, everyone. This month, we're highlighting some of the collaborative efforts that our Geospatial and Engineering Services Group has been doing with MDE, also working with DNR and Corps of Engineers as well on a project called the e-collaboration site. This is a streamlining method for any partner that would be submitting a joint permit application for potential wetlands impacts associated with their project. They can submit that digitally now through the e-collaboration portal, and all the regulatory agencies can review that permit application at the same time and share comments between the agencies with one another. Previously, this was a paper process. You submitted multiple copies to the different agencies. They did their own reviews independently, and then you had to reconcile all of those comments as an applicant. Now it's a collaborative process. It streamlines the permitting process. You can actually go online as an applicant and see where in the process of review your application is and follow up on that. So it streamlined the process, but it's also taken the paper out of the process. One of the recent milestones, we've been working on this since 2017 with MDE, but one of the recent milestones was that MDE notified SHA as of last week that they no longer need to submit paper copies anymore. So it will be a completely paperless process. So again, more environmentally friendly, but streamlining the process as well. And one of the great things about this whole effort is that it has been done under grant funds from EPA. So although state resources have been used to develop this and the collaboration, the technical funding for this has been through EPA over a number of years, over $500,000 worth of funding from EPA to develop this portal. So a great success by our GES team. Any questions?
How much of the time frame has been cut? I know this was a major issue for MDOT SHA through the TMDL process for 4 years and meeting the 2020 end date.
Correct. So we're still gathering some data on actually how much of the time frame is being reduced. Obviously, some sites are more difficult than others anyway, so require a higher level of communication. But just from the collaboration standpoint, it's estimated to save 90 to 120 days because each individual agency was providing comments that the permit applicant had to then reconcile. So it's greatly streamlined the process.
And is it only this MDE collaboration, is it only available to state clients, or will the counties have access to this for their projects moving forward?
So currently it is available to all fee exempt applications, which would be state clients currently. As we define or refine the process for state clients, it will be rolled out to county and then to private clients as well. So it's going out throughout the whole permitting realm.
Excellent. Mrs. Heller might like that. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gillespie. Any questions from, I'm sorry, board members, any other questions? Hearing none. Next slide. Mrs. Crosby.
Good morning. I had to get my audio and everything together. Good morning again. Our first item is for Montgomery County Engineering Service, provide engineering support service to the Gud and Oaks landfill. This is from our AE shortlist contract. The contractor is Barton and the Juice. The estimated amount is $375,000. The term of the contract is from the notice to proceed to June 30th, 2020. There's no MBE participation because the engineering firm will be performing 100% of the work.
Is this client directed? at all?
No.
Okay. Are there any questions?
This is JP. I'll move this item.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there a second?
This
I'll
is more,
second.
It's simultaneous. We'll go ladies first. Mrs. Heller, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next procurement item.
Okay, item 2 is for the Cox Creek Expanded Community Enhanced On-Site Trail Design Support. This too is an AE contract. The awarded contractor is AD Marble. The estimated amount is $250,000. And the term of this contract is from May 2021 through May 2022. There is a 37% MBE participation goal.
this is more,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
no,
Hall.
no, no.
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, this is a great project. I looked at the design and I looked at Mrs. Dolliner shared some of the design of it, and the trail and this educational space is just going to be awesome right next to Cox Creek. And obviously it's waterfront. It's connected to waterfront. So it'll be a great environmental space next to the Cox Creek expanded area. So for everyone to bring their kids and their families to hike at some point in time when they're in Baltimore, Anne Arundel County, excuse me. Mr. Hall, I'm sorry about that.
This is more, I make a motion that we approve procurement item number 2.
Second.
There's Smoking with the second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Next procurement.
Item 3, an environmental dredging and restoration. This is for the Masonville DMCF supply of high-strength geotextile to supply high-strength geotextile to the Masonville Dredge Material Containment Facility for the use at the Base Dike Winding Construction Facility. This is a competitively sealed bid. The advertisement date is to be determined. The project is estimated to be $2 million with the contingency added. The goal for the contract is also, will be determined.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
When we look at these, again, you know, I haven't been in every place in the state nearly as much as people from MSE, but I'm not quite sure where Masonville is. So is there any way of when you do these things so that we see what county and perhaps a nearby other kind of thing like a lighthouse or even the county that they're in, so that we know where it is? Is that possible to?
Most definitely. We can map anything for you before.
Right.
We can have we can have another slide with the procurement slides that does a map, that'll have a map of the location circled. But this is in the harbor. I believe it's Baltimore. I'm sorry, Mrs. Dollar. Is it on the Anne Arundel side or is it in
Baltimore City.
It's Baltimore
And
City.
It's right by the harbor tunnel. So if you go through if you're going south after you went through the harbor tunnel and you go through what used to be the tolls, now they're all electronic, it's kind of right to the right.
895, right?
Right, 895.
895 tunnel.
I've lived in Baltimore County all my life, and I frankly never have run into Masonville. So
It's, when you come out of the 895 tunnel, it's to your right.
Roger that. Okay.
Because
Thank you.
Fairfield, there's some autos that you usually see, right? Am I getting that right? Yeah. So Fairfield Terminal is next to it, and you always see autos, lots of cars to your right, going south on 895 out of the tunnel, and then Masonville is next to it.
Thank you.
No, we'll add maps. We'll add maps for future board meetings. So there'll be a second map, and we'll get you out to some sites.
And some of
Now
the
that
people who
COVID
are,
is receding.
and some of the people who are outside of us looking at what we're doing, I think it might help also to say
Most definitely.
just exactly where this is. See if it's in their neighborhood or not, for example. Thank you.
Okay, we'll definitely add that. Thank you for that comment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
JP, I'll second it.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item.
Okay. Item 4 is geospatial and engineering services. This is a contract from our GIS shortlist. This is a contract being awarded to Whitney Bailey Cox Magnan LLC, and the amount of $335,450.09. The term of the contract is from June 20 to June of 2022, with a 49% MBE goal. Whitney Bailey Cox and Magnan will provide an annual process of capturing feedback more efficiently and effectively from its local jurisdiction regarding local roadways report as being accepted to local maintenance inventory for each of Maryland counties and municipalities.
Any questions?
Again, if you could tell me where this is please.
So this will be based out of SHA headquarters at 707 Calvert Street. This is just, so it's computer work. It's computer work doing mapping services between MES and Whitney Bailey Cox Magnani.
Right.
But it'll be out of Baltimore City, but it'll be mapping all over the state. So the TMDL sites, the total maximum daily load, or stormwater remediation that MDOT/SHA has to do throughout 11 jurisdictions in the state to meet the nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment reduction goals of the Chesapeake Bay TMDL. And this is work where they have all of those facilities located, and you can look at them in those 11 counties that SHA is putting in the ground, taking the runoff from the road and making sure that it's has a lower concentration of nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment. Did I answer your question enough, Judge Schmalkin?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay,
Absolutely.
excellent. Is there a motion? I might be able to give you too much detail on that, Judge Schmalkin, because I worked on it for about 4 years at MDOT.
Well, that must be right. Okay.
Sorry. I wasn't doing the GIS, but I was working on the program. Is there a motion?
Moved. So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you, Judge Schmalkin. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, item 5, construction project for Crownsville 250,000 gallon water elevated tank reconditioning. This is from an Ocean for upgrades of interior, exterior coating on a back elevated water tank for the Crownsville Hospital complex. This was a competitively sealed bid. The lowest bidder, K&K Painting, is the awarded contractor for $350,000. The term of the contract is for a period of 95 days, and the MBE participation goal is 11%.
This is one that I do. This is one I do know.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
This is JP. I'll move procurement item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Judge Schmalkin. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. And here is our 25 to 250,000 contracts, purchase orders, and amendments. I'll give you a second to look at them and then ask if there are any questions. Okay. Next slide. So Mr. Coleman should still be on a well-deserved vacation, but we do have Ms. Carroll to present any items from on a legal report. Ms. Carroll? Oh, no. You hit forward too many times. Ms. Fuller, you're working on it. Okay, no worries. Mrs. Carroll is
Have it
talking,
in
but
just
she's
a
got
second.
herself on mute.
I tried to unmute myself to tell her she was on mute.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Now you're unmuted,
Thank you. Sorry about that.
and you
Good
don't have
morning.
any slides anyway. So
I don't have any slides and I have a very short report. I
Okay.
wanted to update you all on one litigation matter. On April 27th, the Circuit Court for Anne Arundel County dismissed the case that CJ Miller had filed against MES and Bowen and Cron. On last Friday, May 21st, CJ Miller did file a notice of appeal of that dismissal in the Court of Special Appeals. So our office will be working on that appellate matter. We don't expect a briefing schedule for a while later into the summer. And also wanted to let you all know that we've begun the process to hire a 4th Assistant Attorney General. That's it.
are there any questions for Mrs. Carroll? Thank you, Mrs. Carroll. Next slide. Trying something new, I'm going to pass this to Director of Government Affairs, Mr. Jeff Tosi, to go over some needed changes for regulation due to the new law. Excuse me.
Good morning, everyone. So there are two changes, or two sets of changes, I should say, to MES's regulations that are pursuant to the MES Reform Act that was passed during the 2021 General Assembly session, Senate Bill 2. These are, there will likely be some more changes that come along, but these are being proposed as emergency regulations because they pertain to a few items that need changes to conform the regulations to our law in an expedient manner. So these changes, if approved today, would be published in the July 2nd Maryland Register and effective shortly after that. The first set of changes deals with the MES Human Resources regulations. There is a definition of formally the director of MES. The law changed the title of the director to executive director, so we just make a conforming change there. And there's also a change that corrects is it? I can't see it.
Training.
Number 25 B, paragraph C, that just makes a conforming change. I guess at some point in the past, managing directors were referred to as executive directors, so this just changes that to managing directors. The first change, which I apparently glossed over, just makes sure that board members are not considered essentially employees and subject to human resources issues at MES. The second set of changes, if you want to go, deals with MES's procurement regulations. Again, we make the same change here on the title of the new title of the executive director, same as before. And then secondly, we make changes to the board approving of contracts. So the law made reduce that threshold from 250,000 to 200,000. This regulation makes that conforming change to match with the law. And I think that's it on this round of regulatory changes, and obviously seeking the board's approval here.
We approve it.
So that's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Morgan Hall, second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And it's moved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Mhm.
Any old or new business? I have none. Is there any old or new business that someone would like to bring up? Next slide. So the next board meeting will be Thursday, June 24th at 9:30 a.m. We don't know how, excuse me, I don't need to say that. So cameras, the new law requires us to stream, and at this point in time, we have no capability, even as the building is opening, to hold a board meeting and stream live all in the same room. So we're working on that and working on purchasing a system that will allow that to happen at some point, but we don't have the capability now. So I guess this is a little bit of new business, but we'll continue to have these virtually until we can confirm, until we can meet the requirements of the law that will take effect July 1st and have a fully streamed and recorded meeting in person. But with that, unless there are any other comments, I'd ask to move to close the meeting.
This is Morgan Hall. I make a motion that we close the board meeting for May 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
JP, I'll second.
Thank you. Ladies first, Mrs. Heller. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a great June and a happy Memorial Day weekend. And thank you all for everything you do.
Thank you.
Same here. Goodbye.
Bye.